we'll get started. Some others may join us. But welcome everybody, and welcome to our national call. Most of you know me, I'm Jerry Friedman, and we have a few different presenters tonight. Margot Frank is going to give us a personal perspective on meeting with legislators. Jan is going to talk about some internet tools that are available for you, and especially related to communication. And can you put up the slides, Jen, please? And then Hazel will talk about her personal experiences with, especially with Arizona legislators, that she's had a lot of experience with over the past time. So first, we're going to hear a little from Margot, who's going to talk about her experiences and what got her started on this path. Margot.
Hi. Well, I want to say, first of all, that prior to getting involved with Elders Climate Action, I was not very politically involved at all for many years. I was busy with work and family and commitments. And so, after in the 2016 election, I started by just calling legislative offices at the state, but mostly at the federal level, congressional and Senate offices, and sometimes using scripts that I'd gotten from someone else, sometimes just a very brief statement of my own. And that helped me to break to kind of demystify the process of reaching out to legislators. And then when I went to DC last year for Elders Climate Action Days, we had a day of visiting all the members of Congress. And I have to say, I was pretty nervous about doing it. I hadn't been in the halls of Congress since I was probably in 8th grade on a field trip. And the whole process of entering the building and going through security and all was a bit intimidating, but we went in small groups. And so that was really helpful for me, having other people along, some of whom felt much more comfortable with visiting the congressional offices. And so when we started, I held back. I did not speak up in the beginning, and I let others who were more comfortable with it take the lead. And then pretty darn quickly, I began to see how it would work best for me. And one of the main pieces was remembering why I was there and really speaking from my heart about showing up because I'm concerned for the future that my grandchildren, of the planet for my grandchildren. And, in these legislative offices, they were all staffed by young people. And so, first of all, it became apparent really quickly that those of us who were there in our Elders Climate Action hats and speaking about climate change were a rare bird in the halls of Congress, in that we were not there for something that mattered, that would benefit us. We were there for the benefit of other people, like the young people who worked in these offices. And so we worked on making personal connections and having conversations whenever possible. We rarely were able to actually talk with the elected official, but sometimes we were able to speak directly with an aide. Sometimes it was just talking with the front office people and engaging them and sharing from our hearts why climate change is so important to us and how it may affect them in their future and any children that they might have. So, and I saw that once we got going and got over the hump of the initial office visits, it became much easier for all of us to do it. And we were even able to occasionally find common ground, even with elected officials who we were pretty sure were climate change skeptics. but we would find some way of talking about where they, their home districts or their state, how it might be asking questions about how it might be affected by extreme weather events, or if it was a state where outdoor recreation was really important, talking about finding an entry point with them of something that mattered to them, talking about their children. They had pictures of their families up. And I got over my fear of doing this. And then coming home, I realized that where I live, it's a rural area of a district. It's a very large, it's one of the largest districts in the country. And so it's rare that our congressmen, and certainly not our senators, come to the area where I live. But they have field representatives here who staff their offices. And so we're able to go in and develop relationships with these young people working in their offices here in our own little town, and begin to explore with them what are the stands of the elected officials for on climate change, when are they going to be in our community, so that we can set something up to talk with them directly when they come. And so start, and then having the experience of being in DC really has helped me to feel more at ease and confident in making contact with legislators. And so I want to really encourage and invite all of you. Some of you may have a lot more experience and ease in doing this than I have had. But I think that for those of us who have that ease and experience, we can also mentor and encourage other people who might not feel so comfortable with it. And I'll turn it back over to you, Jerry.
Thanks, Margot. That was great. And I think everybody has trepidation initially when talking to legislators or trying to meet with them. So I'm going to talk about some ways that you can communicate. Next slide. There's a lot of ways to communicate and contact your elected officials. The first one is you can just call, and you can call either their district office or their DC office, or you can call both offices. A lot of times, if there's a great number of issues on the table for them, the easiest office to get through to is the district office, and the DC lines are often tied up. I know they are for my legislators. So you can call. Another option is to write. You can either write by email or snail mail. And if you write a letter, you can really communicate with them, and you can expect a response. You will get a response. Sometimes it's a canned response. Sometimes it's a more personal response, but you will certainly get a response when you email or write a letter. Some of the members of Congress have a communicate button on their website, and they have a form that you fill out. Others do not. You can do either. I prefer to actually write an email that goes directly to them. So I would get their email address. Those email addresses, Jen will be showing you how to get that. You can always fax. I found that a little more difficult because when there's hot items, the fax machines tend to get tied up, but that certainly is an option. There's comments on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you could then schedule, the other thing you can do is schedule meetings with an aide. You call up, you say that you're a constituent and you want to schedule a meeting. A really great way to come face to face with an elected official is to go to a town hall meeting or a community forum. Many of the legislators spend a week or so periodically in their district. It's a requirement that they need to do that. And some of them hold community meetings. Some of them hold particular topic related meetings. And you can go, and then when you're asking questions about their stance on climate change legislation, et cetera. You're not only bringing that forth to the legislator, but you're also bringing it forth to the rest of the people in the audience. When you contact your elected officials, here's a sample phone message or even an email message that you can deliver. It's important that you say that you're a constituent. And if you're a grandparent, that you're a grandparent and a member of Elders Climate Action. But make sure that you let them know that you're a constituent and in their district, because that's who they're answerable to. I know sometimes it doesn't appear that way, but it is the truth. And so when you call, you may want to, if you're not calling on a specific bill, you may want to ask to speak to the staff member who actually handles the environmental issues for that member of Congress. So you would ask for that person. Hopefully you would be able to talk to them. If not, you give your message to the person who answers the phone. Those are recorded, not recorded as a video, an audio recording, but they are recorded by numbers of people who call on particular issues and what their stance is, so that that information does get passed on to the legislator. So those are ways that you can communicate. You'll be getting a copy of that sample email or letter, so that you'll have that and use that as a model. It's important when you're doing mail, email, or fax to make sure you give your name and address. And the address is really key, because the address is what determines that you're a constituent of theirs. And you want to talk about what your issue is, and why you're supporting it or you're opposed to it, and talk about the way that it affects you in a personal way. You've got grandchildren who have asthma, or whatever the reasons that this is important to you. You live in an area where the sea level is rising, or wildfires, whatever the issues are that are important to you, make sure that they hear that. And then if you are calling about a bill, and Jen will talk a little bit more about how to actually get information about bills, you want to reference that bill. Every bill has a bill number. It's going to be H whatever and S on the number, and that will be in the title. And that's the only way they can actually reference the bill that you're actually talking about. Don't make a long letter. It's not going to get read. It needs to be short and sweet. It needs to be less than a page, and to the point, and easy to for them to just sift through and know what you're talking about. Next slide, please. So many of the members of Congress that you'll be calling are climate change skeptics. They feel that it's a hoax or the science is wrong, and they're at the opposite end of the spectrum to where you are. But it's still important to know that we've got to still be respectful. We need to just be clear about our issue. It's not personal. You can't get into it being, a personal attack on an individual. That isn't going to get us anywhere. And it's important when you say that you're calling to support or oppose a bill, or to request that they sponsor certain kinds of legislation, that you're going to remember their stance when you vote. We have elections coming in November. 100% of the House seats are up for election. So that is a powerful place to be. Don't be intimidated at all. These people, they're people. They're moms, they're dads, they're grandparents. They're people just like you and I. They may have on a blue suit and a tie, and they may, drive in a big fancy car, but they're still people. and they have the same kinds of feelings and emotions, regardless of whether or not they're a skeptic. If you can, before you make a call, if you're actually going to call and speak to a legislator, and you can point to some piece of common ground, as Margot talked about, that would be important. You know, something that they've done that you felt was really good. You know, it was really good that you supported this piece of legislation. Now I want to talk to you about this. So now Jen is going to go over some web tools and some internet options that you can use with online resources for furthering your information. So go ahead, Jen.
Sorry about that. I had to go back out and unmute myself. Can you hear me okay, Jerry?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a number of online resources out there that are partner organizations of ours, or organizations that we have discovered on our own, people on the leadership team at Elders Climate Action, and utilize as tools to keep connected to what's happening. So a few of those resources, I'll go into these a little bit more in depth, but in the Environmental Voter Project, which is a partner organization of Elders Climate Action, and we are working on Elders Vote for Climate 2018, which is our partnership project, which is a climate pledge, and elder voter encouraging elders to get out and vote. Ballotpedia, Countable, ResistBot, and Common Cause, and then also the U.S. government and house.gov, senate.gov are all resources where you can find ways to connect to your elected officials. Environmental Voter Project is really looking to increase voters and bring voters to the table that don't typically vote. So through the partnership program between Elders Climate Action and Environmental Voter Project, excuse me, you can sign up on either our website or the EVP's website and take the pledge, and they will remind you about any elections that are coming up. So it's a really great way to just get the reminders of what's happening in your own community. Sometimes we don't remember all the little local elections and things that are happening. So EVP will help you stay connected to the elections in your area. Ballotpedia is really the encyclopedia to American politics and elections. It's really the place where you can go to find out what is happening, who's running, what the polls are showing, all of those kinds of things. Ballotpedia is a great resource. So if you're looking to find out who's running in your local area, Ballotpedia would be a great place to check in and see that. Countable is a really great tool. It's a website. It's also an application you can get for your phone. And this website really can help you keep track of what's happening in Congress, and lets you see what's happening. You can see what's happening by the week, what bills and votes are coming up. You can set to get notifications about specific topics that you're interested in. So you can find out if there are bills on the table about that specific topic. And it's really a great way to stay informed of what's happening. And then you can also comment and contact your representatives directly through Countable. So you can take polls on different bills or different topics, and you can say whether you think it's a yay or a nay, and you can contact your rep right there and let them know what you think about that particular issue. It's a very, very, very handy tool to use, and I use it a lot, mostly from my phone because I find it easiest. ResistBot is one of my favorite tools that's out there, and you use ResistBot. You can use it online, but it's easiest to use actually from your phone as a text message. So all you do is text the word resist to the number 50409. And it will walk you through the process of how you get started. There's no download, there's no app. It's purely through a text process. And it will guide you through the steps to draft a letter. You can even add your signature to that letter. It will take the letter and convert it into it'll take your text message, convert it into an actual letter format, and then it will fax that letter to your representatives. What's really great about it is it will continue to fax that letter until that fax goes through, and then it will notify you once the fax goes through that your letter was officially sent. The other thing that's really cool about ResistBot is that it'll occasionally select letters and ask for permission to send that letter to the editor of your local newspaper, or sometimes I've been asked to or they've notified me that they're going to hand deliver my message to Congress. They're going to do an on-site delivery, and they're going to drop my message off in person. So it's a way to have a presence from the comfort of your own home and from your phone. It's a very easy way when there's a pressing issue that you need to respond to quickly. CommonCause.org is another place that you can find a lot of information about your elected officials. You can put in your address and it will give you a list. It'll provide phone numbers and websites and social medias. You can also see right on Common Cause sponsored bills and contributions. That's another thing about Ballotpedia, and also Countable is you can see voting records for elected officials, which is a really handy tool. And I think Margot was going to talk about the candidates pledge briefly.
Do we want to first hear from Hazel, or should I do this first? I think
I would say go ahead and talk about candidates pledge, and then we'll switch over to Hazel. That way we're done with slides.
Okay. So some of you may have already seen on our website and in the newsletter reference to our Candidates Pledge Climate Action Project that we are doing this year. Because every member of Congress is up for re-election, and a third of the Senate is up for re-election, and many state and local offices are also having an election year. This is a crucial time for us to start to speak up about climate change and to ask candidates to sign a pledge and commit that they will take action. So on our website, you'll find all the information to help you get started with that. One thing to remember is that because we are a nonpartisan organization, we are not supporting any candidates or endorsing any candidates, and we want to ask all candidates. So once the primary is over in your state, then you can organize with other people to reach out to all the candidates, whatever their party, and ask them to sign this pledge. And then on our website, you'll see that we started with a pilot of this in Arizona with people running for state office there in the primary. So you will see that there's some candidates who are already listed there. And once any candidate signs this pledge, then that information will be up on our website. So we encourage you to look at that on our website and to start to organize a little team to take this on with the candidates this election year. And I think that's all that I'll need to say about this right now. We're really going to be rolling it out in this summer.
Thanks, Margot. We're going to hear from Hazel now. And I do want to say about the Candidates Pledge Climate Action Project, it it is as valuable to get that signed by a person that's a supporter of climate change legislation as it is for somebody who's going after somebody who's not supporting it. Because even in an election where there doesn't appear to be much competition, it's still important for those legislators to understand that you're elders and that you stand up, for your grandchildren, and so they are getting that support. So if rather than say, well, there's no real competition in my state, so I'm not going to bother with this, that's really not a good way of approaching it. The best way to approach it is to get those individuals, regardless of how much competition there is, so that they hear from you that you've got their back and you're supporting them, and B, they go on record, and you're going to remember when it comes to election time how they vote, and that's a really critical issue. So now I want to introduce Hazel Chandler. She'll tell you a little bit about herself and her experiences in Arizona. So Hazel, it's all yours.
Hi. It's great to be with you guys. Today's a really special day for me. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I've been involved with Elders Climate Action for, it's been almost 4 years, I think, and on the National Steering Committee. And I've gone to Elders Climate Action Day, and just shortly after I retired, and I was hoping here, I've gotten really involved in a lot of things that are going on, and realized that one of the things I loved most was interacting with elected officials and talking about the issues, and I had done some working with the legislature. I've never ran for office, but I worked with the legislature both at a national level and a state level over the years, and I realized that I really enjoyed that. So I kind of took on starting to pilot the climate pledge in our state, both at a local level with local candidates and with national candidates, and started showing up at all kinds of events, legislative district meetings, congressional district meetings, party activities, signature gathering, all kinds of different events. And what I found was that when you stand in front of someone, and especially if you've been at a forum and you've asked a question about climate change and they've just answered the question about climate change, what you realize is you've got a captive audience. You can say, oh, you just said you supported climate change. Here, sign this, and have the pledge right in front of you. And with that, I've been, with the help of a couple extra other people here, we've been really effective in getting a lot of people to sign. Now, these are primary candidates. There's no guarantee that all of them will get the necessary signatures to get on the ballot, but we have, I think it's about 20 people running for state offices, including senators and representatives at a national level, senators and representatives at the local level, mayors, a corporation commission, the list kind of goes on and on. So, and then we've also been, we have, I think, signatures from candidates for 5 of our 9 congressional districts as well. So we still have a long ways to go. But out of that, I kept interacting, I kept hearing the issues, I kept seeing what was going on within my legislative district. And I went to an environmental day at the legislature in February, and I had this nagging feeling that kept saying, the poem that we often refer to, Ruth Hillinger's poem, what did you do when you knew? And it's 3:23 in the morning, and your great-great-grandchildren are asking, what do you do when you knew? Well, I came home from that day with this nagging feeling, and the next 3 nights I got woken up at 3:23 in the morning. Honest to God, I'm not lying. I got up and looked at the clock every time, and it was 3:23 in the morning. So the third night, I got up in the middle of the night at 3:23 in the morning, signed onto my computer, and filed my paperwork to run for Arizona House of Representatives for my legislative district. Just middle of the night, out of the clear blue. And I have to tell you that today I officially turned in my ballot signatures, and I'm officially on the ballot. So I will be in the primary in August, on August 28th. And hopefully maybe we'll go through to the general election, and I would be honored to serve in the House. But I see this as a twofold. It's an incredible opportunity to talk about why climate change matters with all kinds of groups of people. And what I found that when I'm at events, when I'm out knocking doors to get signatures or to talk to constituents, when you talk about those issues, people really do care. It's a big issue. Even when you ask them what issues are most important to them, they talk about how they're really concerned about environment and climate change. And it seems to be kind of true across the board, but I see that a lot with elders. And I think as we start to move forward in the next few months, we've never had an election that's more important at this time. You know, I've watched, and I know you've watched, basically my life work on environmental and climate change issues be shattered by some of the acts of EPA and our current administration. And we just can't let that happen if our kids and grandkids are going to have any kind of future. Jerry is having problems in her area with flooding from the sea level rise. Margot is having problems in her area with fires. We're having really critical issues here that nobody wants to even talk about, but you know, we're at within 1 foot of Lake Mead being to the level where we will have a mandatory 12% water rationing for our entire state. In fact, California, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, California, and Arizona, I think would all be affected. I mean, that 1 foot is all it's going to take to go into that mandatory. And we have basically not had rain since monsoon season last year. I think our last rainstorm that even hardly wetted the ground was in August. Snowpack is at the lowest it's ever been. So these are issues that are huge, that are impacting us now today, and we can't wait another 2 years or another 4 years. We've got to talk about these issues. And so I'm challenging you each today. You don't have to file to run for office. I don't even recommend it. It's awful, especially when it's 107 degrees and you're trying to knock doors to get the rest of the signatures. I've never been so hot in my whole life, and I never realized how bad global warming was when we had a record day in the middle of April and it was 107. And I'm out stupidity at 6 o'clock in the evening knocking on doors. But you can do so many other things. You can do what we talked about with writing letters and calling and all of those things from the comfort of your home. But it's really also fun to get out. Get out to the meetings, get out to the town halls. There's debates happening at the state. Every single office is important. It doesn't have to be a national office. We can make the most difference often with city council, with sometimes even school boards, because what is being taught in the schools impacts the next generation. We need to be talking with teachers. We need to be talking with healthcare professionals and all kinds of people, because it's impacting our children's health today. It's impacting our health today. And there's just so many ways that we can go out and be really effective and make a difference and get people talking about the issues. I've seen the momentum building here in Arizona, and because we've asked them for the climate pledge, when people start that are running for elected office are starting to give their presentation, they're bringing up climate change as an issue. They're proudly saying that that they supported the elders' climate pledge. We had in probably one of our reddest districts ever, a special election in April, and Harel Tipernani was a Democratic candidate. Debbie Lesko was a Republican candidate. Debbie Lesko refused to sign the climate pledge. Harel signed the climate pledge. Harel talked about that on the campaign trail. Even though Trump won that district by 21%, Harel came awful close. She won the district, or she lost the district by about a little over 4%. So we've made huge impacts in that region and starting to change viewpoints. And actually, she overlaps my district, and she won in every one of the precincts in my district, which people said that my district was a totally unwinnable district. I don't think it is. I think we have a very important that you talk to people. And also, if you really want to have a candidate on your side when they get elected, go knock doors with them. You can do it kind of generic in the region and knock doors with multiple candidates, or you can do a single candidate that you may choose. Of course, you're knocking as an individual. You're not knocking as Elders Climate Action if you're knocking for a particular candidate. But there's nothing that's going to get you more inroads to talk about the issues and getting to know those candidates personally, and helping and volunteering or making phone calls or doing whatever, hosting a house party is an important issue. The other thing I would really think that is going to be important is starting to hold house parties during this election season to discuss the issues. If you've got a large house, or you can find a place that you can rent for very cheap. The Unitarian churches are one of the places I found that are really cheap. They're like $40 in our area to rent. And invite all of the candidates who are running to come and watch a movie or a short movie or some kind of presentation, one of our presentations from one of our calls or whatever, and then have the candidates discuss their viewpoints along that area. It's a good way to let people know where people stand. I just can't say enough. Get involved, however it is. If it's a phone call, if it's a letter, if it's going to a meeting, if it's talking to your friends, talking to people about the issues, even at Starbucks or the grocery store, or the gym or whatever. These are the way that we make a difference and we change people's viewpoint. And people are thinking about this. This is an issue that isn't something that is, if you talk about it on the campaign trail, it's going to be campaign suicide. It's risen to the top, issues in everyone I'm talking to, and especially I found that true of independent voters. So, any questions? Anything anyone wants to add?
congratulations or whatever, or condolences on choosing to run for representative. I am speechless. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Condolences might be appropriate. It only gets hotter in Arizona. And they say you can't win without knocking doors. I'm trying to figure out how do you virtually knock doors.
Sue, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in the chat. I'm going to paste a resource that I think might be useful. This came from a friend today who's telling me about Beautiful Trouble, and it's narrative power analysis. And basically it's a setup for having storytelling for, you know, the people who are active in the Elders Climate Action, or the elected officials, or people who are running as candidates. Everybody has a story about their truth, their journey. And so to have, you know, you mentioned having people come together for an event, that's one way you might consider doing it.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have a comment? Okay, Jerry.
Thank you, Hazel and Marco and Jen. That was very inspiring. And we're very proud that our first Elders Climate Action member is running for office, and we hope that many more will. And it shows that, you know, we've still got a lot of energy. We've still got a lot to give back. And if you have some concerns about meeting with a legislator, go with somebody. Or even phone with somebody. You know, it'll become much less intimidating as you go along. And if you can start out by calling your local council person or mayor at the very local, at your town or city level, and then work your way up from there. It becomes easier. And I'm on first name basis with my senator's aides because I call there so often. And they probably groan when they hear my voice, but it is what it is. They need to hear the voice. And the other thing is that people call, but not a lot of people call. So there's a lot of power in your calls or your letters, because many people don't bother to just sit down and write a letter or an email or make a call. So when you do that, it becomes, you know, sort of has grown a little bit because it's representing more people. And, you know, you can say, you're representing Elders Climate Action, and there's 90 million elders in this country, and elders tend to vote too. So that's a big voting block and a consistent voting block. So it's important to keep communicating with legislators. Now is the time. We need to keep the pressure on before the election so that we can stop this tide of reversal of everything that's been done that's been positive over the past 8 years. So any more questions or comments? No?
Jerry, this is Ron and Joanne Rose. You said that we will have access to those slides that you presented?
Yes, you will. You will be getting them within the next 2 days as with the recording.
Okay.
So you'll have that. Yeah, I know that we went over it, and that way you've got that, all the list of materials and the websites, the script for letters. So you'll have it. Yes. Hazel?
I just wanted to mention, if you're in a community that there's not a lot of other people that are doing to meet with you, and you're concerned about going by yourself, almost every community has a Citizens Climate Lobby chapter or a Sierra Club chapter. Both are great. They meet with the legislators on a regular basis. You know, I've gone with them on meetings. I'm clear that I'm representing Elders Climate Action. They're clear, they're representing Citizens Climate Lobby. But it's been a really, really, really good marriage. Also, Sierra Club often hosts legislative days at the state legislature and those kinds of things, press conferences and so on. So get on those lists so you know about those events, because they're really, really good way to represent Elders Climate Action, talk to other people, find more people in your community that are interested in taking action.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any last comments? Questions? Well, I hope you found this valuable. I hope you're all ready to at least make one phone call, write a letter, and go with a friend, go with somebody, just like Hazel said. It's much easier if you do that. And asking a question at a town hall meeting or a candidates forum is really very powerful, because if you're at a candidates forum and you ask a question about climate change, and you can write your question beforehand so you know exactly what you're going to say, and you're asking people to publicly state, you're asking representatives and candidates to publicly state their opinion. And it's not only you that hears the answer, then it's everybody in the audience. So you've generated some power there. And we're going to have to work hard, but we're going to accomplish this. We're going to get the candidates, we're going to get them to sign our candidates climate action pledge, and then we will hold people to it. We'll be able to, we'll have it posted on our website, all the people that have all those candidates that have signed it, and it's there for everyone to see. I'd like to thank you all, and hopefully we will see you next month for our national call.
It looks like Sue has something to share.
One more quick thing,
Okay.
and that is I'm also working with young people, and I've just put up the link for peacefirst.org. This is young people ages 13 to 24. So if you have young people who are interested in these issues, you can partner with them and give them that website. It has to be the youth that puts it on. But then I am a digital mentor who can help them to get connected with other youth to share this kind of information, that we, the elders, can share this with the younger generation. And if you'd like, is it okay if I put my email for anybody to
Sure.
ask? So if you'd like to talk about that, give me a call. An email.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Catherine.
I was late because I was attending a Marin Interfaith Council meeting. And so here in Marin, we've got this council with representing from different congregations. And they know I'm with Elder Climate Action. I'm representing the Unitarian Universalist Church as well. And so then they're quite excited about it. I told them about September 15th. They're focusing on the march that's going to be happening on September 8th. But we'll be partnering with that march as well and bring that more to people's attention. So hello, everybody from Marin County, California.
Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending, and we'll see you hopefully next month. And have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.